worlds where dreams collide. Sarah's voice, a gentle guide through the realms of time and space. She takes us to a sacred place.
Now, please, I'm curious about the Red Pyramid. There's a pyramid that's called the Red Pyramid in Egypt, and I was wondering what you could tell me about this particular pyramid.
But the red pyramid is an actual red hue. So if you look at, for example, in New York City, there's what you would call these brownstone townhomes. In Egypt, in the creation of the pyramids, they used very similar materials often in the creation of the stones. And now in the red pyramid, they used sand that was tinted red, and there's a reason for this. So the subject that you have under hypnosis today in her practices uses color therapy. And so there is no coincidence when you look at, anything on Earth, anything at all, and the hue of it. And when they created the Red Pyramid, they wanted to really enact the properties that came with the color red. And there are several. So, even colors can be associated with numbers. Red can be associated most often in people's mind with anger, but the true color of red is associated with love. And the color of red was imbued in the stones to really draw that emotion to that area during the build and leaving almost an imprint on the earth after the build was completed.
What does it look like the Red Pyramid was built for?
Well, it won't come as a surprise, likely to you, Sarah, that the Red Pyramid also is associated with the housing of some of the red crystals. And they also have a history attached to them, rooted deep in love, with a connection to Earth and the properties of Earth itself. They traveled through time as Earth went through its various stages. The Red Pyramid is really all about that, about love, about the regeneration of Earth in its future state, and housing, that color and items that imbue that hue within it, really to activate that emotion and allow humans, when they find these artifacts and look at this pyramid, to see that color, be feeling inside them an activation that occurs with that color, um, increasing the feeling of love, not only for themselves, so self-love, but love for Earth as a whole, for Mother Earth, for respect of what she brings. And in obviously the 5D state, you will be more compassionate and loving and understanding of how to live in unison with her. And really, that is almost like a stepping point. So Sarah, at the moment, I'm seeing like a trampoline, and they're showing me like it allows like you to be sort of like bounding into that state that you're needed. It's like yeah, like essentially like a stepping point um to help sort of push you into that state of self-love and love for humanity and the universe and your earth.
If you go into the Red Pyramid now, how can you maximize your experience within it?
It's showing me to sit on the ground and connect with the stones themselves, with the base of the pyramid, not the base, but sitting on the ground, sitting on that level of the pyramid. They're showing sitting in a comfortable state, but for whatever reason, cross-legged it would be preferred, with your arms gently by your side and your palms upwards to receive love and compassion, those energies through your hands where your heart chakras also reside. And just like Crystal did with you, Sarah, with your session with her, you could encourage people to close their eyes and see the color red behind their eyelids or visualize the color red. They could wear stones that have the color red. So it's almost like paying homage to like a deity or like a god or goddess, like come with an offering of red. So wearing that in your jewelry, like a bracelet, a scarf, anything like that, it almost like activates the energies there. And it's paying like a little bit of like showing them almost like a gift, like an offering, and that connection and that sort of tip of the hat to the energies that exist there help to connect you further with them in that space.
Okay, cool. Who does it look like built that particular pyramid?
It's a group of individuals here, and I'm being told clearly that this was not a Thoth built pyramid, that this was a group of individuals that may have had learnings that had come from him but were very much in their mind's eyes able to connect with one another and had a shared vision for protecting some of these crystals, the red crystals that they had been tasked with keeping safe and really rooting that energetic, love filled space on Earth for all time, is what they're telling me. So they're showing me when we go to the 5D space that this pyramid and the energy there will still be in its state that it is. So that pyramid is essentially going to be a lift and shift into that space. And it's going to be like just a beacon of what the 5D realm is supposed to be. People will come in and out of that pyramid. It'll be just like a meeting place almost where you can be rejuvenated and reminded of, why you're here in that 5D dimension. But I'm seeing like a group of people that had sort of been they've been tasked. We've talked about these individuals actually in the past. So they were tasked with hiding some of these artifacts, and they influence people in power to do things without the people in power really understanding exactly what was happening. So they needed financial backing to build this pyramid, but they definitely didn't want the people in power to know why this pyramid needed to be built this way. So what they actually did was they tried to explain to the individuals in power that would provide the financial resources that red had a lot to do with power. And we know that that can be seen often associated with red. Like, there's a lot of emotions that can be associated with red: anger, power, etc. So what they did is they explained that it was a power sort of move, and that it could be a linkage. It would be a special pyramid essentially for individuals in power, just to show, the individuals residing in that culture, just how powerful they are. And it would be like an homage or a temple in essence to honor the individuals in power. But really, obviously, that wasn't the case. What it did was honor Mother Earth, the creation of the universe, our connection to source, and love for all living things, our planet, the universe, etc. But that's how they got their financial backing.
Oh, wow. Okay, interesting. Throughout Egypt, there's all these like symbols, or especially the things form a triangle and things that equal the amount of basically days in a year for a 12-year cycle. I'm just super curious about this because it's almost like you can find these like triangles, like a statue will have basically it'll measure like its arms to waist and their hands up will measure like this certain degree. And people say that that degree is the amount of days of a year. But did they do this on purpose to get rid of the 13 months calendar, or did they have a 12-month calendar, or why did they put the triangles? I guess I'm just curious about all the symbolism.
The journey that there was obviously a lot of deep rooted meaning behind all of the pictograms and the symbolism that you're speaking of. And as far as the calendar, there were two sort of opposing views within Egypt. So there were the believers of the 13-month calendar and the individuals that we were just speaking of that built the Red Pyramid. They subscribed to the 13-month calendar. They felt that it better aligned with the seasons of the earth, with the divine timing, with the old historic knowledge that 13 was a really powerful number. But then individuals in power over time wanted to sort of write out some of that symbolism and did want the individuals that they held sort of power over or court over to subscribe more to the 12-month calendar. So they're showing me that the triangle was used as a point of measurement, but not maybe in the way that you think. So if they're showing me if you take the triangle and flip both sides down, it creates a measurement there. So can you see what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay. So it's essentially flips the sides down and it creates like they're showing me like a measurement, like a foot or a linear foot or something like that. So the triangle isn't used as a measurement in this form that you see it in. You'd have to take it down, and they did that with their mind's eye.
Okay. There's so much symbolism in i- in these hieroglyphs that look like they're trying to point out something. What is it that the people are really looking at when they're looking at these hieroglyphs? What are they trying to point out, basically?
There were many things. So there a lot of the hieroglyphs, the drawings, all of these symbolisms that you see, there's a lot that goes into them. So some of them were just a marker of time where they didn't want to lose knowledge. So they would capture these, pictograms or images so that the history of the place wouldn't be lost. Now, they hid symbolism in there, just like, in religious sectors now. In the Bible, there's, still symbolism, there's still stories that tell the real truth, but it's embedded in something that would be more acceptable to society. So within even those pictures, there are hidden messages within the hieroglyphs, within some of the symbolism. Those actually are, they're showing me almost like a crop circle. When people look at a crop circle, there's like a hidden message in there that activates your DNA and starts to shift it and awaken you to old knowledge. And a lot of these hieroglyphs and images and imprints in Egypt do the same exact thing. So all you need to do is look at it to have this energy be activated within your body. And as humans become more and more receptive to that old energy being activated and the awakening of knowledge, you're going to see some of these hieroglyphs actually start glowing. So they're showing me right now that they are activating as well. It's like a mutual exchange of energy with the human race. And as we begin to awaken, they awaken more deeply too, and it's almost like a lock that's going to be unlocked. So, um, yeah,
Oh, okay.
I just sort of see them starting to glow, and they're going to just resonate with our energy, and then it's showing me that's just this complete unlock of information and shared exchange of that knowledge.
Well, the people that built these things, or, were they people and these groups, that got the money to, especially to do something like build the Red Pyramid? Can you tell me more about this group, like what they were all about? And were they all together? Was this like a secret group, or was this just they were receiving knowledge in individual groups?
That specific group was a secret group, and they came over with knowledge from Atlantis, and they knew that they had to hide this, but they came in separate groups, but with that shared knowledge that they were coming there together. It looks like they met a few individuals that had already been in Egypt and had known through intuition or like divine messages that these individuals would be coming and could kind of give them the lay of the land. They had already started to integrate with those people in power and then introduce these individuals, not all of them, not every single person in this group was introduced to those in power. Some of them were sort of held behind the curtain and laid low, but essentially they would meet in hiding often. There were certain members of that group that could communicate telepathically, but not all of them, but enough of them that they could transfer messages that they needed to and then relay them to the rest of the group. But they very much were a secret group that brought information over from Atlantis, knew that they had to keep it in hiding. And, the group had influences of extraterrestrial knowledge, and that had been passed down. There, like I said, there was not a extraterrestrial working with them when the Red Pyramid was built, but they had that past history of working with extraterrestrials and the knowledge that came from that. That was also something that they had safeguarded and kept alive within that group.
Tell me more about that group. What kind of things are so where did they live in Atlantis and like what kind of practices did they do? Did they so they had extraterrestrial influence and you get a sense like how that even started this group?
Yes. So we have talked about this in the past, so I'm just going to reconnect with that information. So Toth was very influential in this with the groups that left Atlantis and came over to uh, Egypt, and he had singled out parents or families that had children that had been taken off the island and had been basically obliterated because of their genes related to reptilian type features or other animalistic features. He knew that he could present himself in uh, a form that resembled their children and that they would have a compassionate bone for him because of what they had gone
Right.
through. And he,
Right.
yes, he shared information with them. He sent them off in three different groups, and the reason, obviously, that they didn't all go together was in case something happened, they were caught, or you know, they didn't make it. He didn't want them all to go at once, but all three groups actually did make it over there. So these were small families that were passed off with this information that he shared. He sent
Oh,
some, important artifacts, obviously some shared knowledge, and sent them over to meet these individuals that had already been telepathically told from him to expect these travelers to come.
okay. So these were like mostly parents of these children that were taken away. And
Yeah.
um just so I know, when you're looking at this what happened to Atlantis, so I know they were doing all these genetic things. Was it that they were doing the genetic experiments or trying to do this DNA and and like a huge part of the population had this issue, or was it more that they were taking slaves and then manipulating them, or was it maybe it was both? I don't know. What what exactly did they do to cause the genetic mishaps? Was this a vaccine, an experiment, DNA splicing?
So I'm seeing that it was more of a vaccine, and it wasn't something that was anticipated or planned at first. And it was almost just, it was an unexpected byproduct, essentially. And this happened. And then, of course, as scientists, typically do, they saw what had happened and were very interested in it and tried to replicate it and, make it more powerful and see how far that they could push this. um, but the thing that got concerning is that these individuals that had these animalistic qualities or reptilian like qualities, they were becoming almost sort of more advanced than the scientists because they were pulling in characteristics from the animal or reptilian features as well as their human features. So they were they almost had this like magical quality about them. And they became very fearful that they would take over those in power essentially. And they started to send them off to that island that you've described
Mm,
in the past to
mhm,
obliterate them. And if you know, because through your readings that there, were a lot of lies behind that and telling parents that they were taking them to this place and it was for the betterment of all. And that really wasn't the case, as you know.
got it. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for that. Okay, so does it look like then that these people, these parents went to Egypt then, and so they were tasked with hiding some of these artifacts, and then were they also tasked with putting information in these pyramids and hieroglyphs?
So I'm getting a resounding yes, and that
Okay.
information and that plan came before they were even sent away. So again, Thoth is clear that he didn't build, that red pyramid, but the information and the safeguarding and the plan of how to even put some of these hieroglyphs, etc., in there was discussed or was written down on scrolls or recorded in some type of safeguarding information. So there was a plan in place before they even left Atlantis to go ahead with this plan when they arrived there. And that was very much his influence.
So now when you go to Egypt, understanding that there's a lot of information from Toth and from these parents, then what basically is this information? Is it like you said, like it's basically these crop circles type of thing that it gives you information, but is there anything else that is important to really know about them?
So they're saying it's like layers, like peeling an onion. So there are so many layers to this, and it's almost like baby steps for human awakening. But there are already humans that are more advanced, and so their onion will be peeled to a greater extent than some of these other individuals. But there is information there about the reptilian features that are, still running through some bloodlines. It looks like some of the families that came over, at least two of them had children that they had been able to hide from those in power in Atlantis, and they had not gone to that island yet, and they brought those children over with them. And so that lineage of like that bloodline essentially with those characteristics still runs through our population today in some of our human incarnations, and just an acknowledgement of how important it is, I guess, to respect each and every animal, for they bring special magical properties and need to be revered, and that you don't need to splice them into a human to sort of harness those powers, that we can do that just by connecting with those animals, and that's sort of a really unfortunate, sort of gross, misunderstood piece of our past that really the Atlanteans heavily leaned into, which was trying to harness those animal properties by splicing them together with humans, but that is never the intention. That we should just view each individual species for the beauty that they carry, and we can connect with them without ever having to do that, and that they are more than willing to share their power and knowledge once they feel that they can safely trust humans again. So you will see a lot of nods to animals in Egypt. Obviously, the Sphinx. If you look at the hieroglyphs, there's other nods to what people see as alien type features, like aliens with the beaks, and that's Toth, and he's saying that there's also something special about that relates to the bird sort of species and the properties that they have. So I'm just being shown again that it's an onion. There's so many layers to this information, but like a pyramid of they're showing, what is it called? There's like a hierarchy of needs that you learn in psychology in school, and it's a pyramid. And he's showing me, Toth is showing me that right now. And that as you peel back each layer, you get to that top of the pyramid where you're sort of enlightened with almost all of the knowledge you possibly could be again as a human being and connect completely to source and have a very open, direct line of communication. And that is the goal as you continue to sort of peel back this onion and learn all of the information that you can and allow your bodies to activate fully, allow your consciousness and your energy to shift into that 5D space.
Oh, wow. Okay. Wow. Thank you for that. Okay. I just have like 1,000 questions. Let me see. So, all right. So then why, um, basically do these hieroglyphs have all these animal parts or animal, bodies? That is because they're honoring, or are they talking about Atlantis? Like, or like, is it kind of both, or, well, it's probably,
Exactly.
okay. So
So
some,
it is both because they wanted to show, I guess, what happened in the past and ensure that it wasn't replicated again. And then they also want to show and honor, yes, the animal species as a whole. And so there are both of those things happening in unison.
but people can read hieroglyphs and they seem to be just very basic, like, oh, this hieroglyph means this. I think probably that's just not even really correct, right? Or is it
That's right.
just
They're
okay?
saying that's right, Sarah. They're saying so many people in that pretend essentially they're using that word very clearly to pretend to be the bearer of understanding of this information are often wrong, and they're spreading misinformation, but they're saying that's fine because as you awaken, it's like a knowing within yourself that when you hear that information passed from someone, it will not resonate with you, and that you will be able to look at those and start to understand the meaning on your own and connect with those hieroglyphs and start to get almost like a download of information that is actually true and accurate.
There's one section where it basically shows people making perfumes. What is that all
Mhm.
about? Like oils.
Right. And so he's telling me again just the power that goes with scent and smell and what that can elicit in individuals. And it can elicit emotions, but it's also very healing. So he's bringing me back again to the session that I did with you, where I use essential oils and just the properties, what that can do for someone's health, what it can do for calming of the mind, how it can alleviate pain, how it can actually put people into a hypnotic state depending on the mix of oils that you use. We've talked again about Christ in the past and the rose oils and how important that was there. So it really is an acknowledgement again for humans to tap into the use of scent and just what that can bring forth within us as a whole.
How did they do the hieroglyphs? Like, how did they create them? Did they really chisel it out? I mean, how has it lasted thousands of years with just a rock and chisel?
Showing me it was used, or was done with the mind's eye. So again, the energetic power of using your mind's eye was almost like a laser that they had just by using their energy, shifting their thoughts to create those. So no, they're very basic. They're very like crude hieroglyphs in some areas that were chiseled, but the ones that you're speaking of and the most prevalent ones in Egypt were created with again the mind's eye and the energy that was able to be focused came out almost like a laser beam and could carve
Okay.
those out that way.
Oh, wow. Okay. Interesting. But some of the big obelisks, like those big, the like you see them, the big obelisks with like a pyramid on top that are very large. Like
Hmm.
they look like they were chiseled out of like a mountain or something.
They were not chiseled out. Same thing. They were created with the power of the mind's eye, with a group of individuals who would get together in a circular form and all share their energy to have this essentially be carved out. So it was carved out, but it wasn't chiseled out. It was
Okay.
carved out with their mind's eye and moved, put into place again, also by using the power of their minds.
So these when the people from Atlantis wanted to put hieroglyphs in these pyramids, um, how how did they go? They had to hide them basically. Who were the rulers at the time in Egypt that allowed them to do that? I think you said they were able to assimilate themselves with the higher ups there. But would the people in Egypt be aware they were using their mind's eye? I mean, was this frowned upon in any way there, or not really?
Was because there was a fear of individuals who could do that so easily and that they would have more power than those in power. So they did have to hide this technology, and technology they're showing me in brackets because it's really just an energetic thing. So they're actually showing me that they essentially put on a play. So they would have individuals out there with these chisels, with these hammers, chisels, all these tools in the dirt, chiseling things. And it was just like the pulling wool over the people's eyes that were in power. So they made it look like that is how this was being accomplished, but it actually wasn't. And again, they're showing me specifically right now we're talking about this red pyramid. And so when we talk about the assimilation into the groups of those in power, it was never direct with like a pharaoh or anything like that. It was the people that supported those individuals. So they would influence them, and those individuals often influence those in power. So it was like a game of telephone of influence essentially. But no, they had to hide the fact that they were using their mind's eye to create things because that's such a powerful gift. And those in power would want to squash that and would really view them as a threat. So they did have to essentially hide that and make it look like they were creating this in other ways.
Okay, wow. Okay. Um, some people speculate that there's like scrolls about from Atlantis, like the halls of records or whatever, under the Sphinx. Is that true? I mean, I'm sure they've excavated and taken whatever they found out, but is there something like that under the Sphinx?
So I'm seeing that I'm not seeing under the Sphinx that there's those records, but I am seeing that they carried over almost like in tube type shapes and parchment and scrolls. And it's interesting. So they're showing me that if someone had found these scrolls as they were traversing over to Egypt, they would pull out this parchment and it would look like nothing was on it. So it's almost like an invisible ink that when the right people or the right energy reads them, it starts to glow in like a gold type hue and appear. It's almost like magic. I'm like, is this real what I'm seeing right now? But they're saying yes. And again, this had to do with Toth's energy and how he was able to capture things. So these are almost like yeah, magical scrolls. So these are hidden, but they're showing me that these are more in the red pyramid that you're speaking of, actually. And they will be able to be read by those that align with the energy of the scrolls. To anyone else who found them and opened them, it would just look like old parchment paper, and that was a safeguarding to be in place. So if they were found by those that shouldn't have found them or that would try to wield the knowledge for misuse, it wouldn't be accessible by them. But those that start to align with that energy will be able to read these scrolls. So that's a really cool thing.
Wow, that is really cool. Where are the scrolls? Like, are they just in the pyramid? Like you just would see them, or they're physical scrolls just hidden somewhere?
They are still hidden, and they're showing me that so these sort of sandstony type stones, they're inside the pyramid as well, and they almost built like a altar, it looks like, in one place,
Hmm.
and with underneath that altar, it looks like it's a um solid piece of stone, but it's not. There is a hollow chamber inside this altar, and the scrolls are hidden in there.
Oh, wow. Okay. Oh, so interesting. Um, okay. Gosh. Um, all right. When the people came over from Atlantis, like these particular parents and these groups, how many pyramids were in Egypt at the time? Or were there no pyramids then? Were the pyramids built because of the Atlanteans, or were there pyramids?
There were already pyramids in existence before they came.
Okay.
Um, so this red pyramid was sort of an easy sell to build because there were already great pyramids in existence, and the individuals in power at that time were looking for something that was more specific to them and not to their time frame, and would be, like we said, like an homage to those in power at that time. And so that pyramid was built then, but no, there were many pyramids already in existence prior to them arriving.
Great, great. Um, okay, let's see. There was this one ruler. Her name was Queen Hatshepsut. But she was more like she had to pretend to be somewhat masculine because she was the ruler. She's depicted as like a man, but she was actually a woman. But then there's rumors that she was working with extraterrestrials. Um, is there anything about her, just something little about her that might be interesting?
So I'm feeling her energy. It's a really sort of unique energy, and I think that is because of what you just described, that she sort of had to pull like a mask over who she actually was. Um, the extraterrestrial piece, they're showing me that I was thinking at first that it might have been a telepathic connection, but they're saying no, that she actually did have an extraterrestrial team who would appear to her, like physically actually appear to her. There was one especially close to her, and they would converse. Actually, I'm seeing them sitting in like a room and having conversations. Um, I'm just seeing this whole picture. They're conversing, she's nodding, and essentially there was just an agreement there, an understanding, I suppose, of the benefit of working together and, bringing forth some of this hidden knowledge to the population, but doing it in a way that wouldn't elicit a reaction. They wouldn't really understand what was happening. But they're showing me like planting seeds essentially is what she did. So she planted little seeds within that group for them to grow in the future into these sort of blossoming plants or flowers. And they would just converse. It looks like they conversed on how the best way would be to do that without, like again, I said, without them really being caught. So little seeds, they're showing me little
Okay.
seeds when she was in power. They're just putting into the population, and it's almost like just one little aspect of human DNA, like they were planting a seed within that to be in the future activated. So they really were looking far, far into the future and seeing in their mind's eye what would be necessary for human evolution and ways that they could assist at that time. She was planting the seeds for where we are now, essentially playing a role in this ascension.
Oh, wow. Is there anything in particular that's important about that location when you go to her temple? So Queen Hatshepsut's temple, it looks like it's created out of like a mountain almost. Is there anything like interesting about the energy when you go? Just quickly, I'm just curious.
So we've talked in the past about alien extraterrestrial crafts being hidden in the pyramids, and they're showing me that this is one of the temples that has that. So there was a room essentially where a small craft, could just fly right in. This is really cool. So this individual that she was speaking to in the room that I just described, they could come in by this, they essentially they cloaked their craft, but they could come in right into her temple. There was a space, almost like a garage in modern day times, but it was for this spacecraft. Fly, the saucer like disc would fly right into her temple and get out and come into this room and talk with her. So that is something really cool.
Wow.
And there will be, if this area is ever found, there'll be some real interest in this space because the craft almost tethered to, with when it landed, it almost, they're showing me like an iPhone charger, and you know how back in the day, I guess like an iPod, and you clipped it down into the charger. They're showing me that there's almost like a base in this garage where this disc saucer would come and connect to. And so that piece still exists there. The saucer itself isn't there, but that base that would clip into it and that will elicit some interest when that is found.
Cool. Okay, the Assyrian temple is in Abydos, and it is like some people speculate it's an Atlantean temple. It's I guess it's northern Egypt or whatever. It's like in the we it takes a while to get there, but it's really far down. Like it's a temple that is underneath like all these other temples. And there's a little depiction of a flower of life symbol there. Um, and people have speculated that the Templars went there. I mean, many people talk about the Templars going to this particular temple, the Assyrian. Is there anything that you notice about it?
So what I noticed, what they're telling me is that this temple was a safe haven for these parent groups that we just talked about. So they essentially had their temple far away from everyone else so that they could um, sort of essentially live in peace and discuss, where they come from, create this lineage that would continue on through all time. It became their like little village and their safe haven. And the Templars naturally gravitated to them because they became the safeguard, um, the harbingers of holding this information, safeguarding this information in the future. They're showing me they almost like passed it off to them. I'm seeing a Templar that ended up having a relationship with one of the children of Atlantean time. So that's as the lineage sort of goes down. There was a daughter there that essentially married one of these Templars, that came very close to one of them. Um, and it was sort of considered this beautiful union, like a passing off of the old guard to the new guard. But yes, so that was their safe haven. That's where they created their lineage and their family, and they passed this information off to the Templars to safeguard in the future.
Oh, wow. Okay. So, does it look like this parent group then built the Assyrian then? Because it does have megalithic type built, so it looks older than the rest of Egypt.
Yep, you're onto it again, Sarah. They're saying so. It was already in place. Much of it was already built. So they're showing me like a house, that like people do now. They flip homes. Like it was
Mhm.
an older type structure that these individuals came and added their special flair to, and they didn't flip it, but they revitalized it and made it their own. But yes, it had already been in place. They were aware of this through Toth and his information. He was able to tell them, where to travel to, that this would be found there. And again, they were able to go based on the information he provided and then really just made it their own.
Wow. Okay. Um, wow. Okay. There's this pyramid of Unis, and it has like the walls have all the description or has the text from the Book of the Dead, it said, but it's like all over the walls. Like, what is the significance of that pyramid? I mean, there is hidden information in there though, because you could shine a light, you could turn off the lights and shine a light on the walls, and you'll see a whole scene that you can't see with the lights on, which is pretty interesting. But that pyramid of Unis with all the Book of the Dead inscriptions, it's what is that? What is that used for? It has some sarcophagus in there too.
It's showing me a link to, like, if you went to Washington, D.C., where there's all those memorials of like the wars, like Vietnam, Korea, etc., that this is almost like that. So they were memorializing the path of the travelers that were captured in the Book of the Dead, the information there that was related to those that passed in the journeys. Essentially, it's um, like a memorialization of that information and an honor. It's like honoring that journey of those people, the loss of the people during that time period, and they wanted to inscript it all on the wall, essentially like a story that just would surround whoever is in that space. That there's almost like a swirling of energy that is created from that surrounding them as they stand in that space. And then that way the story unfolds. They're showing me, and can be seen in the mind's eye of whoever stands in that space. But essentially, it's as simple as being a memorial to that journey and to those that were lost during that time.
Okay. So, then like the part that I played in this information, is it just like the stuff I do now? Like, is it just like the stories? Like, um, I guess I'm just curious, about that. Like, and then,
Saying don't use the word just, because what you did is so important. And so you brought forth stories that people um, didn't feel comfortable sharing with anybody else. You were able to be a safe space for them to bring those stories forth. And you did two things. You helped heal them by allowing them to share their stories in a safe space. And then you were a vessel for this sharing and of that knowledge and ensuring that it wasn't lost. You did both of those things, and that they're showing me was like a gargantuan task because there had been just so much trauma that had occurred, that you were bringing forth, and that you did it in such a special way that you acknowledged the pain and trauma that these individuals went through, but you were also able not to take on their emotions, but were able to capture it for future generations to never lose sight of, essentially. And they say that that is what you do today, that you allow people to feel very safe in your presence, and that there are people that do, past life regressions, but just don't offer that sort of safety net or that feeling of compassion and love. And people don't feel safe with everyone who practices this, but they do with you. And they know that what they share with you is not going to be lost. And you heal them as well as offer healing to the greater mankind, humankind, they say, corrected me there.
oh, that's sweet. When I'm just like so curious, when I go to these places, like when I go to the Pyramid of Unis and there's all these writings, I know they're different from the writings that I did before, but does is like I don't know, does anything happen to me or to the place? Like, are they aware that I'm coming? This is
Absolutely. They're
just
saying,
a
yes,
curious.
yes, of course, yes. So there are activations happening within you, and the energy, the reason you're there is because they pulled you there. They wanted you to go there. This is no coincidence that you were back there in that space surrounded by information that you were in the past. And that was all planned because your energy arriving there again is activating consciousness, it's activating energy that has been laying dormant within those spaces. So there was a pull from the energy there for you to go there. And every time you go, it it activates that information further and also activates the information that lies within yourself. They're showing me that at some point you're going to have to regress people less and less and less because the information is just going to naturally come into your own mind's eye, and that the more that you visit that space and those energies sort of coalesce, that is all building you up to that point.
That would be amazing. Oh my gosh. Okay. Okay, there's um we were talking about it before, the Temple of Horus, and the Templars would chant. I believe it was the Temple of, I think it was the Temple of Horus, where the Templars would chant inside the temple.
That's correct.
Um, is there anything else important about this? Is it important to know what type of chant, like, or is it, why did the Templars go to the Temple of Horus anyway?
So I'm being told there was like an energy, almost like a divine masculine energy within that temple that really resonated with them. And the chant then itself isn't as important as the vibration that it creates, is what I'm being told. And so it really is again to do with that sound therapy and how it almost gets the like molecules or atoms in your body and the energy surrounding you sort of bubbling. They're showing me like mixing and dancing, and it really is more the sound that you create and the vibration that comes from that versus the actual words that you might use. Now they're saying be careful here because there also is a lot of power behind the word choices. So words that you choose do have power behind them too. But what they were really doing in that space was creating a vibration that shifted the energy there and shifted the energy within themselves.
Okay. Oh, interesting. Um, who were the Hathors? Who were the Hathors?
So I'm seeing a group of individuals, and they're showing me this guy almost has like a trident, and he's sort of not tapping, but he's like slamming it down like there's like a force there, and they're showing me that they were incredibly, they had a deep rooted connection with the earth, and they were like protectors of some sort, and there's a really divine masculine energy here, very very masculine with the Hathors. And I'm seeing this group of individuals, men, I'm seeing mostly men, um just strong protectors. In The Little Mermaid, where there's like the dad with the trident, there's a
Mhm.
guy there that looks similar to that, and it's not a trident, but something close to that, and he's like slamming that down, and they're just showing me that they were protectors, very much bound to earth, very much bound to that energy, and were protectors of that, yeah, essentially that energy. They're standing in front of a mountainous stone-like feature, again showing that they were protective of those resources. That's really all I'm getting about them at the moment.
Interesting. Was there a reason why they're depicted as almost like a cow or an elf-like being with these ears that are pointy? Or are they actually depicting something else?
Yeah, I'm not connecting the cow or the elf ears to them at all. That's not
Okay.
coming, that's not vibing for me. Um,
Okay.
yeah.
Got it. Okay. There is a depiction of a being with like elf ears, or like looks, some people say it looks like a cow. And it's like a got an interesting angled face with different ears. Do you get a sense what that is? It's in a lot of the temples. Or is this from Atlantis, basically?
So What I'm getting is that there's a bit of a mixture of things in that depiction. So there is an almost like an honoring of the Fae with the depiction of the ears. Put onto this cow type face is a indication of the mutations that were occurring in Atlantis, but what they're showing with adding the ears to it, the Fae ears, is again, it's how the Fae connect to the creatures of the earth and really are protectors of nature and animals. And it's almost like showing never again. They're telling me like never again will we do or should we do what was done in Atlantis. And they're saying, unfortunately, there are obviously experiments happening on animals in your current time and have been ever since then. But it really was a depiction to show that, animals should be revered and protected. And almost like they're just telling, saying, like, never again should we be treating animals this way. And that you can call on the Fae essentially to help with that um, invocation of protection for them. But we really have got off track here again with the way that we treat animals in this time. But that will be something as we awaken further that will decrease. It already is decreasing. There's more awareness happening in regards to animal welfare at the moment. And as we shift into that 5D space, we will revere animals for who they truly are. And we will be connected more with the Fae. They will start coming out again and appearing, and they show we will exist among you again versus sort of hiding in the shadows.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. Okay, okay, just a few more questions. Isis, we go to an Isis temple. People have like really interesting feelings when they go to, well, basically the old Isis temple. So actually, we take a boat and we go to this ag-like island. It's like a small little island where we just take a boat and there's a few ruins, but it was said to be the old Isis temple. And people say they connect with Isis there. Is there anything you see about this?
Being told that you can connect with Isis anywhere. They want to make that very clear. All you have to do is to tap into that energy. But where Isis existed and where there were um, almost like where Isis would have been revered essentially, and that energy was more pointed or, coalesced because more people thought of Isis in those areas, and the energy of Isis exists in I want to say greater numbers. I'm sorry, Sarah. I don't know why I can't find my words today as easily.
Oh no, you're doing amazing.
Ugh. So essentially, the energy of Isis is there, greater, but can be tapped into anywhere. But when you come with that mindset and already are sort of leaning into that idea of Isis, Isis is like, I'm here, I'm ready for you, and appearing more easily because individuals feel more connected to that space and are more able to connect with that energy. But again, Isis is saying clearly, you can connect with me anywhere, but it happens more easily for people there because of the past history of that energy already being there and their belief in that. So really, that's why it's more easily occurring when you take people to those areas.
Okay. Thank you. It's really hilarious that Suzanne just sent a post about Hathor just now, and that she just said Hathor was a master teacher for how to consciously participate and coexist with light simultaneous lifetimes. She mastered and taught these techniques by weaving, accumulating wisdom gathered from her quantum travel. This could just totally be made up, and this is just by someone, a channeler. Then it says Hathor became an oracle Stargate priestess. Is this just, are we talking about something else? It's just a being that people call Hathor? Because I thought the Hathors were a group, and I do think the Hathors were a group like what you said. So Hathor, is that like maybe a goddess or something? Or is that just totally off?
Oh, no, no. So there is some truth into that. So you're right. The Hathors were a group, but they're showing me like the cards that were handed out at the retreat with the
Mhm.
goddesses on them, that there is a Hathor goddess as well, but that is separate from the Hathors.
Okay. Well, could you tell me about this Hathor goddess? Or is it what you just said, like a mixture, a honoring the Fae animals and stuff like that, what you just said?
More of a celestial connection as well that we haven't touched on, which they're showing me makes complete sense because that is, um, something that's easily connected to with the fae and the animals in our realm. They aren't as bogged down by dense energy as humans are, and they're more able to connect with the celestial energies as well. So there is a celestial component there to this goddess, and there is an really, really deep connection to um, Mother Earth and the properties there that the Hathors also protected. So there are some overlapping similarities, but they're making it clear that these are two distinct, there's a group and there's a goddess, and they are very separate and distinct individuals, groups. Yeah.
So interesting. Um, okay.
Mhm.
Does it look like the Hathor goddess uh um weaves simultaneous timelines, or is that just like interesting
Not
thought?
seeing that. They're showing me that she's related to, they're showing me like wheat growing up, like
Oh,
in the
okay.
ground, and she's really surrounded. Like if you saw a picture of her, there's sun shining down on her. There's a like celestial type uh work going on above her head. They're showing me like what this picture sorry, what if you were to pick out a goddess card like we did at the
Mm-hmm.
retreat, this is what it would look like. She would be standing in a
Okay.
field of wheat, and the sun would be shining down on her, and there would be an open celestial area up above her head. That those are the real properties that are associated with her.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you for that. Okay, just a few more questions. Please let me know if Crystal's getting tired. Um, okay. Um, all right. Let's see. I have to narrow it down. Um, okay. All right. All right. Gosh, every time I think I want to ask a certain question, I have more questions. Um, there was this god. Okay, no, I'm pretty sure. Sobek is this god, okay, has a crocodile head. And there's this temple called Kam Ambo, and there's all these crocodiles. But there was like a conflict between the two gods, so there's two separate entrances. I think it's all about dark and light, but I don't really know. I mean, it seems like it's sort of like an initiation temple or something, like maybe they had to swim and the crocodile would eat them if they didn't release their fear. I really don't know. What do you see with Kam Umbo and this god Sobek with the crocodile head?
They're telling me that like it's again almost like the earlier discussion we had where someone's trying to assign like a script to something that they're not capturing quite correctly, and that we're believing this and running with this thought of someone who really didn't has like misinformation. So this temple and the head being what it did is very much again the idea of extraterrestrial influence, and they often would don different animal heads or animal features. because they would be revered by the population at that time for the powers associated with those animals. And they're showing me that that wasn't just, uh, they're showing me that that temple is crocodile and alligator, and that that is important because there's distinctions between those two reptiles, but also similarities. And they're showing me that oftentimes they're sort of viewed as like somewhat repulsive, and that that temple has a lot to do with shadow work, and sort of there's more to what meets the eye in every single aspect of Earth, including human beings, including animals, that we need to look deeper, and that if something repulses us, what is it that we need to learn from that, that there's sort of some sort of shadow work that is done with that. So when you talk about the light and dark, you are hitting on something there, but it's more of those pieces within ourselves. And they're just showing me that there was like candles burning in there a lot that would throw shadows off the wall, and that you or Crystal should, after this, look up the properties of alligators and crocodiles, the spiritual properties associated with them, how they could be used as totem animals, and again, exploration of shadow selves within that pyramid was a heavy focus.
Wow. And like whose idea was that to, it sounds like they were very enlightened. Like who came up with this idea to make a temple like this? And was this after or before Atlantis, or was this like built after Atlantis or no?
This one they're saying was built while Atlantis was still in existence. It wasn't a before or after, it was at the same time.
Okay.
And it was the idea of with these extraterrestrial beings again, and how they could influence humanity and have us again try to find the power that exists within ourselves. And that comes through self reflection, and not just looking at all the positives that exist with us, that we do need to do that shadow work and have an acceptance for, um, what we might want to naturally turn away from. And that they would do a lot of that candle work, because in the dark you're throwing shadows on the wall and seeing a distorted view of yourself, or a version of yourself that you don't see when you look in the mirror in the light. And it was all about doing that deep delve into those sort of more hidden parts of ourselves, to try to find the wholeness of your entire spirit and being.
Who came up with this idea?
It looks like there was like a conversation with an extraterrestrial and a few individuals, humans that were in existence already on within that community, and how they could start to put things in place that would make humans connect more fully to their full selves. And again, they recognize that this was uh, not something that would be extremely widespread, but if they could start to have people do that and become comfortable with it, and then at least explain parts of the experiment to others, that hopefully they would awaken the knowledge in the larger subset of group that existed at that time, to not turn away from those dark pieces of yourself, not hide it, to embrace it. They were recognizing that there were, crimes being committed within their communities because people were not embracing those dark parts of themselves. And they're telling me that the darkness then acts out in a certain way. So they're showing me like sexual assaults, robberies, attacks, that those types of things are the shadow, sort of unbridled, unworked on shadow parts of ourselves. And when we tap into those pieces and we acknowledge them, that those settle, and that people become more of their full selves, accepting of all aspects of themselves. And,
So,
sorry, go ahead.
oh no, sorry to interrupt you. So was this an extraterrestrial basically came up with this? Was this during the time, sorry to interrupt you. Was this during the time when the extraterrestrials were helping humanity in Egypt? Like, was this like part of that? Like some of these temples in Egypt, are they from that time?
Right. Yes, that's right. And so this was, um, this was a unique circumstance. So there were extraterrestrials that help with the very earliest building of the pyramids. Now, this one was, like I said, it came to fruition at the same time as Atlantis, where the extraterrestrials weren't fully in Egypt like they had been in the beginning of time, but they could still be accessed. So there could be called upon essentially. And when there was the sort of breakdown of societal norms, and like they were seeing an uptick in crime and these things happening, these individuals who still had a telepathic connection to the extraterrestrials essentially did a call out and called out for help. And this extraterrestrial arrived to provide information on how they can move forward and help alleviate some of the things that they were seeing occurring within their society.
Wow, what type of extraterrestrial was this when the Law of One came, or was this when the cat-like extraterrestrials were there, or which
No, neither. I'm not seeing either of
okay.
those. Nope, this is separate. This was an individual who came from a lineage of extraterrestrials who were there at the beginning of the pyramid building, and was still in that extraterrestrial family they're showing me. And that energy of the individuals that called upon were able just to call upon that group. And he was just chosen. The family kind of said, okay, you go ahead and you go down. And it was an opportunity for him to come to Earth. He hadn't yet done that. His ancestors had, they're showing me, but this was an opportunity for him to have that experience as well and share some of the knowledge that he had and also, give him that
From
opportunity.
from
So
it, he was an extraterrestrial?
that's correct.
Okay. Oh, cool. And he came down. Did he look extraterrestrial?
Yes, he did look
Oh,
extraterrestrial.
what did he
That,
look
that wasn't
like?
afraid. They weren't afraid of that. So that's
Oh,
where he had the crocodile alligator
oh,
look to him, and he came very specifically with that because that was a fear. They were very feared in our earthly plane. They also have a tough exterior to them um, that you need to sort of break down to really understand what lies within. And he donned that look specifically to discuss the shadow work piece and delving into the full human experience and accepting all sides of yourself essentially.
do you see did so he basically told them how to build it, or do you see any extraterrestrials building anything there?
So I'm actually seeing that when he came, that pyramid was already starting to be built, and that
Oh,
he just added these extra pieces to sort of be integrated into it, but it had already started to be, it was already in its building phases. And sorry, what was the second part to your question?
oh, do you see any extraterrestrials building anything there? I mean, I know they built the Sphinx, I'm pretty sure. And um, but as far as like pyramids, did they build well, oh, and I think they built the underground Serapeum,
What
I
I'm
think.
being told is that their preference wasn't to build directly, it was to show humans how to build with them. So they worked together to build them, but they didn't, their preference wasn't to just like pop things up on their own. They really wanted to work with humans and have that be a shared experience.
Okay, and um, just this is my last hard question. Like, but you could, it's okay if it's short. But weren't human slaves at one point, like in Egypt, or is that not the case? Like, were people like maybe they were slaves because they were totally suppressed, but people talk about the Anunnaki, like these extraterrestrials that came and took over humanity. Do you see anything like that, or is that just basically what's happening now with everyone being a slave?
Well, they said that that's existed since the dawn of time, that there's always been oppression and slavery and subsets of groups who, would try to hold power or influence over another subset of group, that always has existed, that there were some extraterrestrials that would come to Earth to try to um, pillage our resources and that they had to be removed and wiped out and that they would be deceptive, that they would try to replicate some of the tactics that the more honorable extraterrestrials were using to communicate with humans for the benefit of humankind. But these extraterrestrials would sometimes pretend to be like that. But what they were really doing is trying to use humans as slaves to extract the resources that they needed to take back to their planets. So they really, they did. They were able to do that. But the individuals that were here to benefit humankind were able to alert groups of humans that this was happening, and they were able to go all, it was almost like a bit of a war to go over and awaken their minds to the fact that they had almost been hypnotized essentially by these extraterrestrials and were being used for the wrong reasons. And they're showing me that they sort of scooped them up into their arms and took them over, into the light, into the group that were doing the more beneficial work. But it was not easy, and that there was a battle between the extraterrestrials themselves. Essentially, I'm seeing that the good extraterrestrials had to essentially kick these ones out. There was a battle between them, and there was some obliteration that occurred, but the battle ended up being between them, and not so much between the humans. The humans were sort of able to scoop these other humans up and bring them over to the light side of the work that was being done.
Oh, like the humans were able to scoop the other humans, like in these, so the fight was between the two extraterrestrial groups, and these humans were able to shift the others' minds or
Yeah,
something.
they said like they they said you were coming at this essentially with your best of intentions, but you were essentially hypnotized and used for the wrong purposes. But come with us, they're showing us, come with us, we'll help heal this trauma. You can trust us, and they help them rebuild their trust, and then had them focus their energies into the work that they were doing for good. And so they were able to scoop them up. I'm sure I'm just being like big wide arms, bringing them over, helping them to heal from that experience, and then showing them that they could trust again, trust the right extraterrestrials, and do work that was in the light.
Wow. Okay. Thank you so much um, for all of this. Um, do you, okay, now just shifting the focus, do you have any messages on how I could stop breaking out into like psoriasis and eczema all over my neck, shoulders, and head and ears and everything back?
Definitely. So, one of the most healing things that you can do for psoriasis is to get out in the sun and get sun exposure, which we know that you do. But the properties of the sun are really helpful for healing that, as is salt water. So, if you can get into the ocean, into salt water, or pour yourself a very salty bath and soak in that, that will be extremely beneficial. And then just watching your diet, trying to stay away from gluten, increasing your intake of green juices, those types of things should help settle it. Watching your stress levels, obviously, you have a lot going on, but they're showing me, Sarah, that they're clapping for you. They're giving you lots of accolades because they are seeing that you are doing your best to be able to find some balance in your life as far as those stress levels go. But that just to watch that, because that is a cause for breaking out in those plaques and patches as well. But salt water, extremely
You. Okay, thank you so much.
important. And juice.
Thank you. Um, okay. Do you have any messages for, oh, sorry, I missed what you were saying. It like cut off. Go ahead.
No, there was nothing else there.
Oh, okay. Thank you for that. Salt water, green juices, um, sun exposure, and and less stress. Okay. Um, let's see. Do you have any messages for Crystal?
Yes, we just want to tell her. So she just got back from this trip with you. She went on a cruise after that, and she was concerned because some of the pictures that she took, even when she was smiling, she saw that the light in her eyes just wasn't there. And she was wondering if that is ever going to come back. And we just want to tell her that it is. it absolutely is. The light hasn't been diminished. It's still there. The work that she's doing with you, the accolades that she received at the workshop with you, those are all the beginnings of her next path in her life. And as she steps more into that, the light will return to her eyes because it will return to her soul. And just to be gentle with herself as that occurs and not to lose hope.
Wonderful. Um, what advice do you want to give her to not lose hope? I mean, it's hard what she's going through.
It is hard. There's been a lot thrown at her at one time. I think, we can see that she just wants to throw her hands up and say like what else almost, because there is so much that's occurred in such a short time period. Even in regards, to her sister now, they thought that, she was never free and clear. She had trouble breathing since the removal of the tumor, but they didn't have a sense that her heart was being impacted in the way that it is. And that's been really difficult for the family. But just again, not to lose hope, and that the power that exists between her and her sister is so, 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 so strong that they can create and heal her heart, and that the energy that they manifest together is something that they need to continue to do because it will be healing for them both.
Well, that's amazing. What do you suggest her sister does for her heart? Like, what is the root cause anyway? Or, well, should I give her a session? Would that help her?
It would greatly help her. It would just make her, when we talked about what you do, Sarah, for giving people a safe space and allowing them to tell their stories, and that allows for healing to occur, that would be extremely beneficial. But what she needs to do on her own path is to release some of the emotions that she's been holding on to. She had seen a lot of heavy things in her role as a healthcare practitioner. She worked in pediatric intensive care for 15 years and saw a lot of heavy things and held those in her heart. And she needs to release those. And again, it's a message that came up in your workshop for Crystal as well, that it's okay to support others, but that doesn't mean owning their energies or their problems. You can observe and support without taking that on, and that there's just a lot of burden that she's carried in her heart that she needs to release. And Crystal did do an energy session on her a few days ago where she said that she sees Tracy's heart, that heaviness being released and being rebuilt in a lighter fashion that will also assist her with her path as she moves forward into her next journey in life, which will be, tapping more into her creative outlets as well, and removing herself a little bit more from that westernized medicine.
I love it. Um, like, okay, I just have one question. Like, I am good about like letting all that stuff go. I hear the worst things all the time, and it just I don't it doesn't bother me, except I think I had a past life where I was definitely like well, probably a bunch tortured, and like especially for men, when I hear about or see something where they're like castrated, I know that happened to me. I just do. Maybe that's why I'm a woman, but I was wondering if you could tell me just about that, how to also, and how to let that go, because obviously I'm a woman in this lifetime.
So right now, Sarah, they're bathing you in this golden, beautiful white light. And they're saying that it's very similar to what you do in this life, where you're like, I can see this, I can hear this, but I'm not going to let it affect me. And they're encouraging you as you do hypnosis on people and they're feeling really upset or emotional in that moment, to view it from a distance, and that's what they're asking you to do, to step back and recognize that this did happen to you, but it isn't happening to you now, and that you do not need to carry that forth. And they're right now just bathing you in this golden, beautiful light, and they're also putting a separation, like a divide. They're showing me coming down between that past life, and there's a beautiful energetic light that's being slid between your current life and that past life that's going to help distance the feelings that you have connected to that. And they're just saying they're respectfully putting that past life where it belongs, and that you don't need to carry that energetic emotion with you in this life, acknowledging that it existed, but not carrying it forward. And they're helping you do that right now.
That's really nice. I did see a little bit of it, but it was after I'd left my body. And I think it was in Egypt too, but I'm not sure. Was it in Egypt or was it somewhere else?
I'm seeing somewhere else. They're showing me more of a medieval time, um,
Oh.
where there's a really lot of barbaric torture that's occurring in that time period, and that's where that occurred with you. And it really was awfully gruesome. It was, and it went on for days. And that, yeah, that impacts your soul. And even if you were watching it as you were leaving the body, that you can still carry some of that energy as you're leaving with you. And right now they're just putting it in its place. They're showing me that, acknowledging it, that did happen, but they're just helping you separate that out from this life.
What was the point of me going through that lifetime though? Like, why did I go through that when I was a man in that life? Like that kind of torture.
So they said that your soul signed a contract to have that happen so that you, as awful as it sounds, could completely understand the depths of darkness that humanity could go in, and the pain that they could inflict on one another, and that it all helps you better understand the worst things that happen to people when you support them in the life you are now and that life that you were when you wrote the Book of the Dead, that you, all of these experiences just help you be more empathetic and sympathetic to people, because we tend not to have the ability to understand where people come from unless we've gone through something before. And so you signed up to go through that horrible experience so that you would be able to understand better those emotions of other individuals that went through similar experiences or a different experience that elicited the same emotion.
Oh, interesting. Thank you so very, very much. Um, is there any final message you want to give us? Because I want to pull Crystal up back out.
Well, the message that we would say is actually going to come more from Crystal herself, and she's getting a little bit emotional here, but she just wanted to thank you for standing by her side through all of this, for being a support that she never saw coming into her life, that but that she needed so greatly. And at the workshop that you were just at, the moment when you came in that door and videoed that testimonial for her, it was a very unexpected um, experience that she just feels so grateful for. And sometimes she feels that maybe she isn't as much of a help to you as she could be because of what she's going through at the moment. We know that's not true. We know that she is, but she
Yeah.
feels that. And so, in those moments that you continue to stand by her side, she is just very grateful for that. And we're telling her that it is a symbiotic relationship, but when you're feeling sort of down and out, you don't always, feel like you're bringing as much to the table as you are. But just she wants you to know how grateful she is for your continued support.
Oh my gosh, I'm so grateful too. Thank you so very, very much for all the help and